theyeshiva.net.
Let's continue. We have 10 minutes. Let's continue weiter. If you have Torah Urs, right? Mm-hmm. Yes. So we basically came into this Maamar to just explore in more detail the Alma Diskasya, Alma Disgalya. But now let's go back here to this Maamar Torah Ur, which, as I told you, was said a year earlier by the Balatanya, where he goes off to continue about Leah and Rachel a little bit in a different kav, but very similar in many ways. And we'll learn another shtickle here. So we're in Vayeitzei, page 45, Daf Chav Gimel Amud Aleph, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 lines from the top, Chav Gimel column 1. The line starts Hakadmoinim. And basically the idea, as you remember, was that in Eretz Yisrael today you have Leah without Rachel. And therefore those who can access the energy of Leah today in Eretz Yisrael will comprehend things that even tzaddikim in the time of the Beis HaMikdash didn't comprehend. And he gives his classic example of the Arizal, who basically got in touch with the energy of Leah, Tikkun Leah. Ulelavan Shtei Banos Kisnu Leah. So now you have to understand why it says Kisnu Leah. Here's the shaila: How the Yaakov hisig vadei ba'alma diskaseh. Mainly you come to Eretz Yisrael now and you're not masig anything. So you say, there's nothing in Eretz Yisrael that I could feel. But l'chayre, Yaakov had a hasaga that there's something called Alma Diskasya, and even if you're going to say Alma Diskasya was revealed even from Yaakov, what's the Snu Alei? That's what he asks in this Maamar. Chayinyin, the pshat is, ki Yaakov nikra briach hatichen amavriach min hakotza lakotza. In Zohar, he identifies Yaakov as the briach haticha. The pasuk says in Truma that the beams of the Mishkan were held by brichim. Brichim are bars, and the bars went from one wall, from one side, from the north to the south, but there were usually two bars that were connected. There was a briach hatichain, a central bar, because there were three levels of bars. The middle one was mavriach min hakotza, from one side all the way to the kotza. It didn't meet up in the middle with another bar and was connected. It was a briach hatichain mavriach min hakotza lakotza. So the Zohar says that Yaakov is that briach, represents that briach hatichen min hakotza lakotza. What does this mean? It's a spiritual idea. Pirush shehu amamshich oirin seif baruch hu min hakotza el yoina. Yaakov Avinu's role is he wants to bring down the infinite light from the highest kotza. The highest kotza means the highest edge, the highest kotza, from the highest stream, from the highest extreme. From the highest extreme, yeah. Hainu, in parentheses, he's going to say, give the Kabbalistic term, as he usually does, but we're not going to elaborate now. Hakav habakeya hachalol, which is the ray of the divine, which bursts into the vacuum. I'll just say that Arizal taught that before the world was created, the infinite light filled up everything, and then there was what's called a tzimtzum, a withdrawal that created a vacuum called a chalal, and then a ray emerges into that chalal. That's called the highest extreme of light. Mibchinas keser, all the way lamata down, min hakotza el hakotza. V'lechei nemar by toisves vav velekei Yaakov. Which he said this also in the Maamar of Noach about akudim, nekudim, and brudim, elekei Avram, elekei Yitzchak, velekei Yaakov. The vav always represents hamshacha, a flow from the higher to the lower. V'chein, in davening, we say hakel, hagadol, hagibor, v'hanoir. Again, noir is Yaakov. Again, it has the vav, even though grammatically either say hagadol, right, v'hagibor, v'hanoir, hagadol, hagibor, hanoir. No, the last one, Yaakov gets always the vav. And the reason he can do this is because he's the synthesizer between Avram and Yitzchak, Chesed and Gvura, love and discipline. By introducing the ayin, the sense of nothingness, into Chesed and Gvura, which is the concept of bittul, he synthesizes the two. Now, in the end of Noach, if you remember, we gave the long shit about what beauty is, what tiferes is. That Yaakov is beauty, splendor, which represents empathy, which is basically touching the ayin, which ayin is basically the sense that is undefined. And as a result of that, the chesed and the gvura make peace, because they're both ultimate reflections of the undefined reality, but as long as you're not in touch with the undefined reality, they take themselves very seriously, and therefore they become in opposition. They're in opposition to each other. When you have the ayin, the sense of nothingness which transcends all, then everyone feels you're part of the whole, but you're not all of the whole, and therefore together with the other one you can recreate the whole. So therefore through the bittul, the ayin creates peace between the chesed and the gvura. He always reaches for the lowest space. He wants to bring it down. He wants the vav. He always wants to come, it should come down to the conscious revealed world, Yaakov's role. To bring it from the highest to the lowest, and therefore to synthesize. And it should not remain only above. That's why the pasuk says, Yaakov loved also Rachel, but more than Leah. Now right away, in the English translation, you missed the pasuk. Because the pasuk, the translation was always say, Yaakov loved Rachel more than Leah. It's not what the pasuk says. The pasuk says, Yaakov also loved Rachel. Whenever you say also, gam, what does it mean? He loved Leah too. So we have an inherent contradiction in Torah. And the inherent paradox is intentional to teach you the subtlety of it. Because everyone says Rachel he loved and Leah he didn't like. 1 second. It says Vayehav games Rachel. So right away, he loved also Rachel. Meaning, who was his first love? Leah. He loved her and he also loved her. But then it says, me Leah. But he loves her also, but more than Leah. In other words, that there's an avatar at Leah. There's also an avatar Rachel. But then there's a deep avatar Rachel more than Leah. And then it says, Vayar Hashem kisnu Leah. Meaning, what's the pshat? Shekol shukasoi hayaliyas giluyed in seif baruch hu lamata ba'alma dezgalia. His entire craving, like his desire, what we would call an obsession, but it's not obsession, his yearning was that Ohr Seif should be expressed in Alma Dezgalia, in the revealed conscious world. Why? Shaydeza yuchlu hakal lekabel. So everybody will be able to receive it. Mashenkim b'chinas Alma Dezkas. When things remain in Alma Dezkasya, it remains so elite, so sublime, it cannot be experienced by everybody. Only Alma Dezgalia can be experienced by everybody. So what he's saying here is as follows. When the Tanakh speaks of love, it's often to be understood in a little more subtle terms than we speak about, somebody being loved. You say, I love you means, I see your milas, I'm attracted to you, I want to be with you. The other person not. What he's saying here is, no, Yaakov appreciated a lot about Leah. But Vayev, Yaakov es Rachel means that Yaakov felt that his tremendous contribution is to bring Leah down into Rachel. What he said before, that Leah should be able to be filtered through Rachel. That things should come down into Alma Dezgalia, because then everybody could be at Mekabel. V'lachein ksiv vayishak Yaakov leRachel. That's why it says when he meets Rachel, he kisses Rachel al derech shenokad al vayishakeyu. Later there'll be a vayishakeyu by Yaakov and Esav, and there's in the Sefer Torah there's nekudas, there's dots on the vayishakeyu. Tahainu shebchinis chachma bin adas shu zivug neshikin v'zdabkus rucha berucha al derech mashal haneshikin shaboyin mepnimi yisa'ava v'gam bchinazu himshich berachel. A kiss represents a very deep dveikus, because there's different types of relationships. One is called zivug neshikin. Zivug neshikin is a kiss. Rashi says yishakenim, and neshikas piyu is not on the hands but peh peh, mouth to mouth, and that's considered as dapkus rucha berucha, that the breath of one enters into the breath of the other. That the breath represents the pnimius, that their pnimius mixes. That's why it's called neshikin shaboyin mepnimius ava. Why do you kiss somebody? So he's not talking about a superficial kiss. Why don't you just speak to them? Why do you kiss? A kiss means my words can't capture the love. So you go, mwah! Right? Sometimes a father will take a child, I can't tell you how much I love you, mwah! Kid may hate it, but that's a separate cheshbon. It's more about your experience of love, maybe not what they want. Okay, that's a separate Indian. But the point is, I can't express it in words, so I give you a kiss. Okay, you have people already, they kiss robotically, you meet somebody in certain situations, you have to give a kiss out of social norm. That's not pnimius ava, maybe fakert. But the point here is that real neshikin in its depth means it's a deeper form of love that's not easily articulated. So Vayishak Yaakov means that Yaakov really wanted to share his deepest self with Rachel. Vayishak Yaakov, his deepest self. V'gam b'chinezu himshach berachel. Leah will be able to facilitate it, but his chiddush is, the chiddush of Yaakov is, that it comes into Rachel, it comes into Alma Dizgalia. V'zeu she'amar, that's why he tells Lavan, v'shanim berachel bitcha aktana. I'll serve you 7 years for Rachel, your youngest daughter. So Chazal are troubled, berachel, bitcha, aktana, Rashi, the famous Rashi, right? It was all simonim, that he shouldn't fool him. He says there's a deeper element here. Lavan hu b'chinas loiven ha'elyon. I mentioned the previous shir, Lavan is from the word loiven, which spiritually means the higher whiteness. Makir hachasadim, the source of all chesed, shekuloi rachem and pshutim. Complete compassion, the lay, smola b'hayatik. In Atik, which is in Kabbalah Keser, there's no left. There's only chesed, only white. Rak shalamat and nishpal b'lavan gashmi. Here below, it looked like the physical Lavan, who was not very impressive. He was a crook. But every concept in this world has a shayrish in the Ruchnisdik world. So Lavan actually has a very deep shayrish in Keser, where there's no smile. It's all white, it's all Lavan. And he says, Umikol makom ksiv kulay hafach Lavan toiru afilu anega. And even in this world, you see, when something is completely Lavan, it becomes tahar. In Saras, right? Person has a white patch on their skin, they're tameh. What happens if the entire skin turns white? Tahir. Even on nega, even Saras. In other words, you see, even the way Lavan comes down, that has a trace of something very, very heavy. And as he says, the Lavan is a crook down here, which is, of course, a distortion of truth. But in its source, the crookedness of Lavan originates in a very idealistic idea, that nothing is fixed. Nothing is fixed. I'm not defined by anything. A crook is not defined by anything. Not a word, not a contract, not a commitment. Necht nazoi, hein tazoi. So you can't deal with such a person, because there's no commitment, no pledge. In the shayrish, what does it come from? In the shayrish, what does it come from? It comes from Hashem, the way He's undefined. So therefore, there's no color. Today I'm this, tomorrow I'm this. I'm not defined by something. Now, if we could trace this down to a crook down here, it might mean that the ultimate tikkun of a Lavan is not by denying it, it's by tracing it back to its original source. In other words, not to live in a world of definition. Again, we're talking about marriage. Sometimes you have a wife or a husband, one of them is very, what they would call today a yeke, and the other one is completely unpredictable. Whatever he says, the exact opposite he does. So it's usually, it can get very, very, Somebody once said, what happens when a Lubavitcher marries a yeke? So you have a Mashiach who comes on time. It can get very complicated between the two, right? So usually one wants to crush the other, stop being so fixed, and you stop being so chaotic. But sometimes it's an idealistic point. Sometimes the person, they have a certain element of freedom, emancipation, and they don't know how to live it out in this world. So it comes out in very primitive ways. It could come out in dishonesty, it come in a lack of communication, because they don't understand how to translate the Lavan into Lavan. The way Lavan gets translated in this world, it gets very, very distorted. But really in the Shayrish, it's a very pure thing. It's extremely pure. So Lavan is actually a very, very deep inyan. The way it comes out, Lamat is in a very distorted way. So when Yaakov speaks to Lavan here, Lavan is the one who does all the switching. Again, there's the way it comes out through Lavan here. In the Shayrish, the switch between Rachel and Leah always happens through Lavan. It always happens through the undefined reality of God. And in order to make peace with it, you have to be able to become comfortable with that Lavan. You have to be able to understand what that Lavan is. That the switch between one state to another state is a very complicated switch, but it comes because it doesn't want you to be stuck anywhere. And because it doesn't want you to be stuck anywhere, therefore Lavan will make a switch between Rachel and Leah. We'll continue in the next year.
The woman has to be the right gatekeeper, no?
Oh, you mean the end of the Maamar? The end of the Maamar. That she has to be able to become a makabel.
Incomplete.
It's not so simple, yeah. That a woman should be able to be a makabel, yeah.
It says,
Torah told us about the crisis by saying Vayar Hashem Kislev Leah. So you understood what the crisis was. Does the Torah hint at the Dinoma also, at the resolution? In other words, and the Torah is telling us by Kislev Leah all this undercurrent of what's happening. We should, if he's going to argue his thesis.
Excellent question. Excellent question. That's, I think, the story of the Dudayim. In the story of the Dudayim, Rachel asks for Dudayim, so Leah gives this response that seems very outlandish. It's not enough that you took my husband, now you're going to take my Dudayim? Really? I took your husband? Maybe you took my husband. Right? So what does Leah say? You're right, take my husband.
What Rachel says.
Rachel says, you're right. L'chein yishka v'mach. I'm saying, you see that what you're saying is an important nakuda, that a woman to be able to become a makabel for her husband, so he should be able to be a mashpia, is a very deep experience. It's psychologically very deep also, because what happens is, to be a makabel is harder than to be a mashpia. You know that, right? I'll give an example. Let's say it's not so dramatic like in a marriage, but the concept. Let's say I prepare shear. Powerful shear. I worked hard a week. I worked a week on it. I come, nobody shows up. Or people show up but they're sleeping. Or they show up, they're texting. Or they're not interested. Okay? So what do you feel? What do I feel? I feel frustrated, disappointed, angry, a little like a loser, wasting your time, whatever the feeling is. Let's say it's the other way around, okay? A student emptied out his schedule and his day and his week to go somewhere to learn by somebody, and he opened himself up to really sit at the feet of this master, and the person doesn't show up. What does he feel? You see the difference? He doesn't just feel, I'm disappointed, I'm frustrated, I have nobody to talk to. It's different. He feels betrayed in a very deep space. Why? You understand why? The first person, yeah, I have the information, okay, I couldn't get it out. Fine, it stays inside. Nicht gefährlich. Sometimes it's better. You could sit with it more. The other person, they actually had Mesiras Nefesh. They emptied out their whole system, and they created, I don't have a better word for it, and it's the best word, they created a womb. A woman creates a womb, literally, biologically and emotionally. A rechem. She creates an opening like this, an open space. And what does it ask for? Fill it. And for that, you have to suspend yourself. The Talmud who came to sit at the feet of his master, it's a form of Mesiras Nefesh. I don't mean literal Mesiras Nefesh. Emotionally, I suspended myself, physically, emotionally, spiritually, because I want to be makabel from you. And what happens? The guy doesn't show up, or he shows up but he ignores him, or he teaches him he's not interested. So I'm like, and you're left with an emptiness. Essentially, al pi Chassidus, that's what nida is. What's nida? Al pi Allah also. It's not just what's nida. The uterus is open. The child doesn't come. So what happens? It shatters, and there's blood, and there's tumah. It's a very heavy tumah. So again, without depth, you think the tumah, she's dirty. She's not dirty. Why is she dirty? She needs a mikveh because she's dirty. A mikveh is not for cleanliness. You can take a shower, it's better. I mean, it depends on the mikveh, but it's not about dirt. Tumah doesn't mean dirt. Tumah is a form of pain. Tumah is a void. Tumah is a void. A void is created. I created a womb. This is male or female, and it's not filled. A man's job is to be a mashpia. That's a heavy job. A makabel takes much more. Mesiras Nefesh. Makabel means I'm open and I'm waiting for you to fill it. Not just physically, I mean emotionally. Physically and emotionally and spiritually. That's not simple. In our generation, what was feminism? Feminism on a spiritual level was basically women saying, for 3,000 years we created wombs, and instead of filling it, you betrayed it. That's it. Gloria Steinem said, women need men like fish need bicycles. Was it her? Sounds like her. What's the vart? It's over. Fish don't need bicycles. We don't need you. It's over. Done. Goodbye, Charlie. You live your life. If you want to get married, fine. We'll negotiate. The concept of mashpia makabel today sounds very chauvinistic, obsolete. It's good maybe in some Hasidic isolated communities where they're living in the 13th century, but in the enlightened people who speaks like this, she makes more money than he does, or equal the whole language. But the truth is, it's a very deep language. It's a very sophisticated language. Doesn't mean she doesn't give him. Could be she gives him more than he gives her. Doesn't mean she's not bright. Doesn't mean could be she's the Gemara also knew bini yisayed in the bisha. We're not the first generation to discover that women are smart. The Gemara also knew. Mashpia makabel knew how smart you are or how charismatic you are. Some women are more charismatic, much deeper, much wiser, much more sensitive. Most smart men consult their wives when it comes to serious decisions for a reason, right? It's not stam this. The vart is makabel is a very deep idea. Makabel is the courage to be able to open yourself up for somebody's hashpah in your core. You know how deep that is, and you know how much confidence you need for that. You know how much confidence you need to be a makabel. It's very deep to be a makabel, to say, I will sit and I'll be ready for you to fill me. And when the husband doesn't do it, it's a very, very painful. Much more. Now, if the mashpia gives, the makabel doesn't show up, it's also painful, very painful. But it's a different type of pain. The Gemara says this in one line. Ein isha kaireses bris. You remember the Gemara? Ela lemisha sa kli. A woman doesn't make a covenant only with the one who made her a vessel. The Gemara means pashut physically also. The first wife of a person's life, that he made her into a kli biologically, in terms of psulim, etc. So kaireses bris, there's a loyalty to her, loyalty to him. But it's much deeper than this. The Alter Rebbe brings it in other places. Krisis bris means an eternal covenant. I make a krisis bris. It's not a krisis bris means David and Yonason. We're in. She'll make a krisis bris. Lemisha sa kli. Somebody who made a kli. So for Leah to become a makabel is not a simple thing. You have to understand. For Rachel to be a makabel is more natural. For Leah to become, but she knew that marriage can't work if she's not a makabel. But to be a makabel is not simple. To be a makabel, you have to be a deep mashpia to be a makabel. To be a makabel means I'm ready to accept and I'm ready to fill. I'm ready to get filled with something, and that's why women have a chush and empathy. When you tell a problem to a man, naturally he's going to give you solutions, right? Your wife tells you, "I'm so hungry." So every chacham says, "So go eat." You think your wife doesn't know that if you're hungry, you're supposed to eat? You think you were mechadish this? You're going to get a Nobel Prize because you were mechadish? She doesn't want to eat. She wants to tell you that she's hungry. She's not telling you she wants to eat. She knows you have to eat. She wants to tell you, she wants you to create space for the fact that she's hungry. That's it. It's called empathy. You don't need, we rather give solutions. A problem with this? Okay, so do this. That's step 2. Step 1 is be quiet. It's not easy for people. You have to be mashpi. You have to manipulate this. Who asked you to manipulate? Accept it. Listen. It's hard for people to know what listening is. Just to be present in somebody else's experience. It's a feminine chush. You know what I'm talking about? They could listen to somebody. And that's it. Listening is much deeper than fixing it. That's the Nakuda of Makabel. Now again, I don't mean to make generalizations here. Sometimes the woman doesn't know how to be a Makabel. The guy doesn't know how to be a Mashpia.
Naturally, you said naturally, they do it.
The biological nature of woman is that she's a Makabel Pashat physically every month, because spiritually it's like that.
Leah had to work harder with
But Sadleah is tremendous madrega. She had to come down to be able to be a Makabel, that Yaakov should be able to fill something, to become a levush for Midas. Of course, he's talking here on a spiritual level. Leah represents a certain dynamic of awareness that's so deep that for Yaakov to fill it, Leah has to come down into another level of awareness. This is on many layers. There's a lot of layers here. You could experience it on many layers. Gashmis, Ruchni, psychologically, spiritually, and Avodas Hashem, and so forth. A Yid wrote me an email on Friday that I guess he was tuned in. that he had an epiphany in his life, and that is, even though it doesn't say here clearly, that his whole relationship with God was only a relationship with Rachel. And he always hated, he had a very deep, kavayachal, he had a deep sinner that he felt to Hashem. And he couldn't get rid of it. And then when he learned this, he heard the shir, he said, it's Leah. I could only accept a God that fits into my imagination. Now, as we know, it's very hard to fit God into your imagination. When you're a kid and life is great, maybe. People get older and there's pain, it's very hard to do that. So he said it opened him up to the fact that he never accepted Leah. And a relationship means there's Rachel and there's Leah. It was just a very powerful insight. Okay, she was supposed to be over 15 minutes ago. Okay, we're holding the line that starts Hu afilu hanega. Hu afilu hanega. In the middle of the page, that's Daf Chav Gimel Amud Aleph. So the point was that Leah and Rachel represent the two states of Machshava and Dibur, Alma Deskasya, Alma Deskalia, the hidden world, the revealed world. And here he explains that Yaakov's deep objective and intention and purpose was to bring down everything into the lowest space where it could be revealed and manifested and utilized in a very concrete and real way. And that's Vayishak Yaakov L'Rachel Neshikin, which represents the pnimius of love that's usually not articulated in words. Even that he wants to bring out in Rachel, and he tells Lavan, I will serve you 7 years for Rachel. What's pshat? I will serve you 7 years for Rachel. So he says Lavan means whiteness. Lavan represents primordial whiteness, which is the source of chesed, white, all rachamim, without any left-oriented component, even though it comes down physically into Lavan. So he continues here about Lavan. He says, Lavan ksiv on Lavan, it says at the end of Vayeitzei, Vayeshkem Lavan baboiker. Lavan wakes up in the morning. Shebechol yoim misgaber v'nimshach ohr hachesed elyon. Vayeshkem Lavan baboiker is not just a one-time story, it's a daily story. Every morning when a person wakes up, right when you wake up, there's an energy of love and there's an energy of chesed. When a person wakes up, there's a few minutes of grace before you check your iPhone. Once you check your iPhone, it's over. But the moment a person wakes up, Vayashkem Lavan baboiker, early in the morning, there's a ohr of Lavan, of whiteness that sets into a person's mind and soul. Even though, of course, we start thinking about things and often get stressed out very fast, or a person gets bogged down by various thoughts. But in the morning, right away, the morning is very, very precious, because right when you wake up, Vayashkem, there's always a pchin of Lavan, always b'chol yoim esgaber v'nimshach ohr hachesed elyon. What's the next thing that happens? This is when Lavan chases after Yaakov, and they make their peace treaty, and Lavan sleeps over the night, and then it says Vayashkem Lavan baboiker, and he kisses his sons and his daughters, and he goes back to his place. V'Yaakov halach l'darko. So he explains it all up Hiruchnis. Lavan, the ohr of Chesed, wakes up every morning. Vayinashik levanav u'levnosav, and Lavan kisses all of his sons and daughters. Meaning, shenimshach b'chol partzufei ha'atzilus charem u'nekevus. The Ohr of Chesed, we're talking here about the spiritual Lavan. The Ohr of Chesed kisses all of its sons and all of its daughters, which means that it's communicated in all of the structures of the world of Atzilus, both male and female, Chachma, Bina, Chesed, Gvura, all the structures, all of the organisms. Partzufim is an organism, a structure. All the spiritual organisms of the world of Atzilus get kissed, which, as we said, kiss is an expression of very profound love. Such an intense love that you don't have words to express it, and therefore the only way you can express it is through the physical kiss, which in a way captures much more than words can ever capture. Even though words are vehicles for ideas, and a kiss is just a physical gesture, a physical action which seems devoid of inner content, but nonetheless, precisely because it's devoid of inner content, it could be a vehicle for deeper content, because it's devoid of words. Words have to make sense. A kiss doesn't have to make sense. Words have to have a construct. Words have to have structure. A kiss doesn't need a structure. And that's why the kiss represents a deeper ahava, which words cannot articulate, because the kiss, precisely because it's such a physical, so to speak, simple action, contains within it a depth that can't be easily articulated in words. So Lavan, in the morning, every morning, there's a Ohr of Chesed that kisses. It comes in, it's imbued in all of his sons and all of his daughters, which basically everything comes from Lavan. Lavan Elyon is like the source, it's the source of all Chesed, Teva HaToiv Lahetiv. It's the source of whiteness, what's called Atika, what's called Keser, Rachem, and Pshutim. And that gives and communicates a flow to all of its sons and daughters, meaning all of the structures, all of the spiritual structures of Ishtalshalos. V'acher kach, and what happens after that is, V'Lavan shavlim kaimoi lamai lamai. Lavan goes back. Lavan returns back to his own region, which is way up there, because it's the source. And in the source, there's no gvura. In the source, it's all whiteness. In the source, it's all chesed. And now, Yaakov halach l'darkei. Now Yaakov, so to speak, hits the road. Lahamshich b'chinas loiven ha'elyon ana lamata mata b'rochel bitui aktana b'chinas dibur. Yaakov wants to take that Lavan and bring it down from the highest spaces into the lowest places, all the way down to Rochel bitui aktana. That's why when he introduced the concept to Lavan, the way he said it was, E'avadcha, I want to serve you for 7 years, B'Rochel bitcha haktana. The objective is that the Lavan ha'alyon, the highest form of purity, the highest form of chesed, should be able to be articulated not only in an unconscious way, but it should be able to be filtered all the way down from seichel to midos, to machshava, all the way to dibur, which is ultimately an external projection of the human being, so it becomes concretized. So Evodcha Sheva Shanim, but my ultimate objective is it should come down all the way B'Rachel Bitcha Aktana, which of course here he's referring to the spiritual idea that Rachel represents that which could be articulated in the most conscious way, that the truths of Lavan should not remain and have to remain aloof and sublime, because there's whiteness in everybody, there's Lavan in everybody. There's the undefined whiteness in everybody, which allows for the switches from Leah to Rachel and Rachel to Leah. But to be able to access that Lavan, the Lavan Shavlim Kaima, in the morning Lavan is there, Lavan is present and he kisses. But then Lavan goes back to his domain till the next morning, and Yaakov is the one who takes that and is mamshechet v'Yaakov halach l'darko. He takes it down the path. Down the path here is the path of consciousness, from the subconscious to the conscious, all the way down until the world of Dibur, which is Rachel, and that was Yaakov's unique connection and unique fascination and unique love and commitment to Rachel. Vayav Yaakov es Rachel.
So there's a little bit of an asymmetry in the sentence then, because Lavan is referring to the spiritual Lavan, the spiritual quality. Once it confers on all the structures of Atzilus, that spiritual quality goes back to its lofty source. But Yaakov, the person, as opposed to Lavan, the spiritual quality, Yaakov, the person, now takes that quality and brings it all the way down. So Yaakov is not the spiritual Yaakov.
No, but also the spiritual. No, the spiritual as well. I mean, it happens to be that there was a difference between Lavan and Yaakov. Because by Lavan, the source was so high that between the source and the manifestation, there was a profound gulf. Where by Yaakov, the Gemara says in the Masechta Chulin, a very interesting Gemara, that the reason that the Malachim were going up and down in the ladder is because they were gazing at the image of Yaakov above and the image of Yaakov below. So in other words, by Yaakov, the two images matched each other. Where in most cases, the images don't. Like Lavan in his source is whiteness, which is the source of all colors. In other words, the source of endless possibility. The color white, as we know, includes all the colors. That's the power of Lavan. It's not fixed in a particular color, right? It's not blue, it's not red. It has blue and it has red. It includes blue and red, etc. And but the way Lavan comes out here is he's basically a crook. There's nothing you can rely on. He's completely undefined in the most negative sense. There's nothing he says that you could take seriously. Where Lavan in its source is actually profoundly healing. It's that you're not stuck in anything. You're not stuck in anything.
Where does Leah come in and put that?
Huh?
After Rachel or before?
No, Leah is always higher than Rachel. Leah is Amadas Kasi. Yeah.
When Yaakov,
Leah is the older. Leah is the older, meaning higher. Huh?
when Yaakov is bringing down this ore, why stop at Dibor? Why not bring it to action?
No, well, once it's Dibur, it's already out there. Yeah.
So is it fair to ask, what's the distortion in Lavan, Lamala, Lamata?
Well, the lava lamata is a very distorted image, just like we learned with Esav.
What's
the makif
what's the cause
of the distortion.
Yeah, because you've got this extreme difference, right? And
Right.
is that a question?
No, of course it's an important question. Where does the energy get stuck? Where
Right.
does the energy get stuck?
And that's universal, right?
Of course, always. And it's usually the way. The lower the fall, the higher it comes from.
And
When a wall falls, the rocks on the top fall much further.
Yeah. And where he's stuck.
And the apple on top of the tree falls further.
Right. And where he's stuck, that's what he needs to fix.
Always. And that could be healed and redeemed. That's the key. In the distortion lay usually the redemption, right? Eis tzara hi liYaakov u'mimeno yivasheya.
That was the point yesterday, that what a person is attracted to initially, he views himself as a Rama, as a Gana.
Right.
But in facing his Genevenness, right, is that the point, is that the linchpin to cure himself?
Yeah. To sublimate it. There's a beautiful mice about the Baal Shem Tov. They say that there was a mother who came to him. She had an ill child, and she begged him to pray to Hashem for his recovery. And he prayed and prayed and prayed. She kept on coming. So the Baal Shem Tov, in every shtetl, in every Yiddish shtetl, they were known as a concept called Shtad Ganovim, the city thieves. I don't know if they have them in Monsey. Shtad Ganovim are basically people that they support themselves from thievery, which was a respectable parnasa for many people, still is for some people. It was a way to support your family with a lot of dignity. They were known as Shtad Ganovim, and they had morals of their own. A Ganav has principles of his own. Who you go to, who you don't go to, when you go to them, before the chasana, after the chasana, he has money, doesn't have money. It was like this whole group of Ganovim. So the Baal Shem Tov went to call these chevra to come daven with him. They all had a lot of respect for the Baal Shem Tov, so they came and they davened with him. So the Mai says that one of his talmidim said, Rebbe, I don't understand. You have holy talmidim, the Chavraya Kadisha. You have people who are really of enormous stature in terms of Torah and Avodah. You go into the Ganovim, the lowest of the low. So the Baal Shem Tov said something which at the surface seems anecdotal. It's really very profound. He said, I prayed and prayed, but the gates of heaven were locked. And the locks were extremely, extremely heavy and tight. And I needed to get people who know how to break locks. So I took them. That's what he said. What he was really saying is something very profound. There's a reason they became Ganovim. You could just look at the person and say he's evil, he's horrible. You could look at a rebellious kid and say he's just lost, he's a sick person, he's a mechutzef, right? A lowlife, a horrible, despicable person. Or you could say he has an energy that can break locks. If you'll teach him how to break locks in heaven, he'll break locks in heaven. And if not, he's going to still break locks. The question is which locks he's going to break. So it's about sublimating the energy. This is not about allowing immoral behavior. Completely not. Don't confuse it with that. It's about sublimating the energy and understanding the ultimate source of it, which was distorted. That's its tragedy. That's the whole idea of what happens with Klippa, right? That the makif gets distorted because it's not integrated. You don't know who you are. That's the challenge. So therefore, Lavan and his source, the Ramos of Lavan, is horrible to deal with. The hechlif es maskut yaseris moinem. Akudim tluyim. Every day is another ma'aser. You have such people in business, it's just impossible. A vart is nicht kein vart. A contract is not a contract. Somebody once told me he came a problem, so he said he was dealing with somebody, with a particular person, they had a shutfus or something. So he came to him with this, we made up so and so, why are you doing this? So he says, first of all, we never made up. Second of all, even if we did, you didn't understand what I said. And third of all, even if we did, and you understood what I said, I changed my mind. That gufa was with a lomdus, you understand? That itself was with a pilp. So it's very, you can't live this, it's very hard to have everything. If you have business relationships with these people, it's like Yaakov and Lavan, it's very difficult. So that's on one level, and that's the MS. On a deeper level, though, we're now talking about the energy of it. The energy in its shoirish actually comes from the space of divinity that's not fixed. The hechlef es maskuti, he switches Rachel to Leah. Just like in life, who does your switch from Rachel to Leah? Who does it? Lavan, always Lavan. In other words, ultimately it comes from a deeper place of God that you're not comfortable with, which is really kulei chesed, but it's very, very abstract, it's very transcendent. And there, Lavan will not allow you to remain fixed, because Rachel is familiar, as we said. Rachel is my familiar spouse. It's the spouse that makes me comfortable. It's the spouse that works with my comfort zone. It's the spouse that I like initially because it doesn't challenge me, it suits my personality. Who switches Rachel to Leah? Who throws that curveball? It's like, whoa, I married the wrong person. The Shadchan said one thing, I married the wrong person. You know the anecdote, yeah? There was once a psakala, so she met the chassan. So after she meets the chassan for a few hours, so the shadchan comes in, to sign the deal, and the main thing is to get the check. So she whispers to the shadchan, she says, "You're pashat al ligna shakin, you're like Lavan." This is what happened. So she tells him, "You said he's tall, he's short. You said he's slim, he's fat. You said he's good looking, he's ugly. You said he's intelligent, he's dumb." Shadchan says, "You don't have to whisper, he's deaf too." So one day you wake up and you see a whole new reality. It's like, whoa, this is a curveball in life. Who did it? It always comes from Lavan. Lavan is not defined. And Lavan challenges the person to open themselves up to those places that are not defined. Not to get stuck in your familiar places. So Lavan, in physical terms, in Pshutei Shel Mikra, is a crook. He's called Lavan Arami, he's a Ramai. Lavan in his source, Lavan's distortion in his source, is Lavan Elyon. It's Chsadim Pshutim, it's Rachamim. And in Saras, you see, even in Saras, which is Tumah, it's not a good thing. Kulei Halfach Lavan, if it's all Lavan, it also becomes tired. If it's all Lavan, it becomes tired. So Lavan goes back, and now Yaakov takes over. By Yaakov, there's no distortion.
In reality, it also happens through Lavan.
Huh?
In reality, it also happens today through Lavan.
Always through Lavan. Not the Shviger, but the concept, the Kmeretach Lavan and Inyan. Lavan comes in many different names, remember, yeah? By definition. This is also the reason that Rachel naturally was barren and fertile. Why Yaakov wants so much Rachel is because the birth that comes from speech always comes down into the lowest worlds, which are Briya Yitzir Asiya. Birth is revelation. The fetus before birth, before pregnancy, is part of the seed and the egg of the parents, which is completely concealed. Even after conception, and after the embryo develops and a fetus starts forming, it's still concealed. Ubor Yerechimayu, the Gemara says. Birth represents complete manifestation, complete revelation. Yom HaYoledes is the day that it emerges, spiritually speaking. Dibur, which is Rachel. When there is birth from that, it means there's a gilui in the most concrete worlds. There's a gilui elikus in Bri Yitzir Asiya. That's a very complicated feature. Because once we hit Bri Yitzir Asiya, the creatures are separated from God. In order to create Leida, which is the birth, which is the revelation of the Loivan Elyon, of pure godliness in Bri Yitzir Asiya, is quite a feat. We said Rachel is Alma Dizgalia. He says, yes, but there's The Gilui, which is on the level of birth, that is very difficult. V'yashchilu gadol ben shari hashpayas l'bchinas leidish u'gilui elyon yos. Birth, the baby actualizes the deepest essence of the father and the mother comes out in a baby. It's not just revelation of a certain lower state of consciousness. The deepest core, even beyond the subconscious, comes out in a child, which is why a father and a mother often will do for a child things they will not do for themselves, including sacrificing their life. Which l'chayri you might ask, if the whole reason you're sacrificing yourself for your child is because your child is part of you, you should treat your child as good as you, not better than you. If I love my child simply because my child is an extension of me, so I should treat my child as much as I treat myself. But people will do things for their children that they wouldn't do for themselves. They'll fight for their children in a way they don't fight for themselves. They'll die for their children in a way they would never, even if it means their own sacrifice. The pshat is, because your child represents a part of you that is deeper than the part of you that is represented to yourself. The child captures the core of yourself, that in your child you see something of you that you cannot even see in yourself. It's not just your conscious and it's not your subconscious. The core of the soul comes out in the child, so therefore the child represents a deeper self than the self represents. Which means when you look at your children, you could sometimes know things about yourself that you would never know from knowing yourself. Because you actually see it in your child. And that's why the Gemara says in Shavuos, Yafa koyach haben mi koyach ha'av. So the pshat is the koyach haben could be greater, but as it says in Svarim, that itself, the Yafa koyach haben is also mi koyach ha'av. The ben is not really a new koyach. It's the koyach ha'av, but in the koyach ha'av it was so concealed, and in the ben it comes out. So even the Yafa koyach haben is also mi koyach ha'av, but in the av it was completely concealed. So Leah is not just a revelation. It's a revelation of the deepest core of self. That the Lavan Elyon should be able to be revealed on that level which Rachel reveals, which is in Bri Yitzira Asiyah. This is not a simple thing. Leah's birth is always a higher level. It remains still concealed. Rachel giving birth is a whole different level of revelation. He says, Leah is thought Yolda Shishabonim. Why Shishabonim? Shem Asfidah Shabatzilis Atzma. The six spheres in Atzilus itself, not Dibur, Machshava, that Leah does. Shesham Haya Shoyrish Hashvatim. That was the source of the Shvatim, V'lachein Nikrayim Shiftei Yudkei. The Tehillim calls them the Shiftatim of Hashem. So that Leah does, because Leah represents Machshava. Machshava is thought. Thought remains internal. So even when thoughts are revealed, they're only revealed inside of you. Dibur is external, so the words come outside of you. In terms of spiritual reality, there's godly thoughts and there's godly words. The Torah describes creation as God speaking, not God thinking. Why? Words are also words are letters and thoughts are letters. You think in a language. Everyone here thinks in a language. Either English or Yiddish or French or Hebrew, whatever your language, usually your native language, but we think in letters, we think in languages. You can't think without a language unless it's pictures. And even then you process it usually through a language on some level, even if it's subtle. So why is Bria Sa'olam called Dibur Vayomer Elokim? The answer is because Machshava is completely internal. Dibur is projective. When I speak, you can take the words and run with them as you wish, and you can misconstrue them. Thoughts are very hard to misconstrue because I don't share them. God didn't create the world with thoughts. He created it with words. If Hashem would have created the world by thinking, what would the world look like? It would look like God's thoughts. Now what does it look like? It looks like a world because it's God's words. And words assume a concretized identity which are external to the creator of the words. They leave the person. You may not even associate the words with the person. Right? If you say something in the name of the one who said it, you bring redemption. What's the big deal? And if you don't say it b'shem Oimrei, Jews do it all the time. You think rabbis give sermons, they quote Shem Oimrei? They don't want to. They want it to be original. A Yid came to the Chassam Sofer once. He was becoming a Rav, and he asked Rishus if he could say over Torah from the Chassam Sofer in his own name, because he says, I have nothing to say, but I can't quote you a whole day because they'll say, what do we need you? We'll read his Svarim. So I have to quote myself. I once heard a rabbi get up to speak, and he says, I always say, and I hear that it's been quoted in my name too. So he tells the Chassam Sofer, I want to say your Torah in my name. Chassam Sofer says, no problem, I give you the shus. Just one thing. If you're saying your own Torah, don't say it in my name. My Torah in your name, but not your Torah in my name. What's Pshat Kol Omer Davar B'Shem Omer Vikul Olaylam? So Chassidus teaches Kol Omer Davar B'Shem Omer. Everything in the world has a speaker. Hashem speaks the world into existence. But when we look at the world, we don't see it. Kol Omer Davar B'Shem Omer. If in everything you identify the one who spoke it, and the one who speaks it, Mevi Geula La'olam, you reveal the world from its concealment. Machshava is internal. In spiritual terms, Machshava is Atzilus. Yitzirasi is Dibur, which assumes an independent veneer. Rachel, which is Dibur, is Alma de Isgalia, which is much more separated from the core. Well, that's the difference between the conscious and the unconscious. The conscious assumes its own identity in the outside reality of consciousness, where the superconscious is still concealed much deeper in the source. Machshava and Dibur themselves exist on many levels. So from Leah there should be birth of the 6 Shvatim, the 6 spheres of Atzilus. That's not so complicated. For Rachel to be able to give birth, to be able to bring out that core into the world, the outside world, which is the world of Dibur, this is already a much bigger avodah. This is a struggle. He says, who are the children of Leah? The first is Yehuda. Yehuda is Hapam Oida. What's Hapam Oida? Now I will be grateful. All Haidah is gratitude. The gratitude, submission. Gratitude is a form of vulnerability. I feel grateful to you. I feel thankful to you. It's never about words. It's always about thoughts. Gratefulness that's only words, submission that's only words, doesn't have the power. It's about, like shikoyach. Haidah is something that comes from machshava. It's an internal process. Submission is not an external process. We all know when somebody says, I'm sorry, and it's words, or I'm sorry, and it comes from thoughts. V'chein Reuven v'Shimon, Re'iyu Shmiya gam ken l'mayla mebchinas hadibur. Seeing and hearing also transcend speech. Ela min ha'machshava heim nimshachem. They're products of thought. V'gam Levi is b'chinas iskashrus. K'moshe kasav ha'pam yilav ve'ishi elai. Now my husband will be connected to me. He'll accompany me. Levi, like escort, you're connected to me. Nimshach v'noilad gamkin min ha'machshava. It's also a product of thought. Kenida b'chush, we see practically. B'misho bal machshava, people who are very thoughtful. They know how to be. A bal machshava means somebody who's a master of thought. She'enei margish klal ba'asakim ha'cholfim lefonav. He's often unaware of things that are happening. Machmas goydel iskashrus sheyesh le bal machshava. Because he could really connect to something in mindfulness, and he's completely in a different space. So Reuven is seeing, Shimon is hearing, Levi is complete connection, Yehuda is gratefulness. These are the four shvatim of Leah. They are all elements of machshava, connected to their very internal experiences. I have to look it up. I don't remember. It's a ma'aseh from Reb Chia Rabba. V'chein gabei Rava b'perek Amar Rebbe Akiva davar mayim b'shmaite. The second thing I remember, the Gemara says in Masechta Shabbos that there was a tzduki who saw Rava learning, and he was so involved in learning, he was sitting on his finger, and his finger started to bleed. So the Gemara says in Shabbos, Amar Rebbe Akiva, that around Peiches, he told the tzduki told Rava, Amma Peziza, you are a impetuous nation, I'm a peziza, a impulsive nation. The kadmisu pumaychu la'adunaychu. Your mouth preceded your ears, meaning you said nasa before nishma, and you still do the same thing. Like, what are you so involved in Torah to the point that his fingers were bleeding? So his point is that he was such a bal machshava that he didn't realize. So that's Levi. When a person could be in that state, people who speak a lot, they're not bali machshava. We're not talking about people who speak. Everyone speaks. We're talking about the concept. Somebody who lives in the world of projection, they're never aloof. They don't know what it means. A person who lives in the world of machshava is a much more pnimizdik person. He's not necessarily aware and conscious of everything going around. So machshava and dibur are two states of consciousness. Dibur is you live always in the outside world. Machshava is you live in an internal world. And there are people who live in that world. They're not so affected by their environment. They sometimes go into a different space. They don't even notice what's happening. A person who's dibur is always in a projective mode. He's always responding to his outside. So Leah generally was a person of much more machshava, and therefore the children carry those names also. V'lachein yatzim imenu Moshe. Who comes from Levi? Moshe. Shahaya kvad pel, kvad lashon. He couldn't speak. Why couldn't he speak? Because people who are really in the world of thought, it's very hard for them to speak. Why? Because to be a mashpia, you have to tear yourself away from being a receiver. Moshe Rabbeinu was so in tune with a higher energy that naturally, we have in Yeridea, Aidi de tarid lemivla layachal lemiflet. When you're busy absorbing, you can't emit. Moshe Rabbeinu was always in awe. He was like awestruck. And when you're in a state of being awestruck, you're silent. You're overtaken by something deeper. Somebody is in a state of Kabbalah, he can't be in a state of Hashpah. So Moshe not speaking is not because it was a flaw in Moshe. Because it was the depth of Moshe Rabbeinu. It was hard for him to be mitzamtzim himself, to limit himself in being a communicator, because all communication is a compromise of energy. You basically have to come down into a state where you're very present and in a relationship with people outside of you and very sensitive to their modality. So it's a sacrifice for Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe comes from Levi. Levi is hapam yilave ishi. He's always connected. His antennas are always up. So he's always sensitive to the divine energy that's flowing in the world. And to become a mashpia, to start giving it and communicate it, he has to tear himself away from it to be able to start talking. Like when you're listening to something and you're trying to concentrate on every word, you're trying to hold on, because if you're going to miss a word and then somebody starts talking to you, right? You don't even say, wait a minute, because even the words wait a minute will disrupt you. You just make with your hand, and even that's too much. Even making with your hand. People who are familiar with the world of meditation and the world of hisbonenus and the world of machshava know. Even the slightest distraction, you're going to have to start talking, it just takes you into a different zone. So the world of Moshe, by definition, was kvad peh, kvad lashon. He's not a person who's capable of talking. That's dibur. Dibur is a different mode. Dibur is a mode of his galus. Leah is not the mode of his galus. Leah is in a mode of helam, of concealment, not dibur, but machshava. It's like you're almost overwhelmed by a higher energy. You don't even feel your existence, that you should be able to communicate. And communication means that you have to feel your existence, not only your existence, but you're a giver, you're a creator, etc. The ikira hefresh ben iskashus the Levi shel b'chinas bittul, or ben haydaya the Yehuda shel gam ken b'chinas bittul. There's a big difference between Levi and Yehuda. We said Yehuda is haydaya, submission, which is a form of nullification. But Levi, you just said the same thing. Yehuda b'chinas habittul begilui keinyan moedim shekareya mishtachava. Yehuda is like moedim. By moedim, the bittul is revealed. You should prostrate yourself. V'lechein yotzim imenu malchei beis David. Shebitulam b'chinas habittul shebeizgalus v'chitzonius. So Yehuda is the family of royalty. Malachim have to be about bittul. But it's a bittul that comes out in a very revealed way, because if not, you can't be a king. Aval Levi ub'chinas iskashrus v'bittul b'pnimiyusei v'atzmusei. By Levi, the bittul is not external; it's in his core. Hagam shebechitzonius ein niglakla. You see mamish nothing. Ukeinyan bittul tzva shamayim l'chamish tachava. It's like the bittul of the heavenly legions. Sheishtachava shalam malachim ein inyan ishtachava gashmius. It's not physical prostration like moedim. Ela shemishtachava batul ba'asagosei beruchnius. It's like he's completely nullified in his spiritual comprehension. And that's why Moshe comes from Levi, not Melucha. Melucha comes from Yehuda. Moshe comes from Levi. Once Leah finishes the 4, she stops giving birth. Now there can't be any gili. With Rachel, it's a whole different cheshbon. What's the difference, he says here, between Levi and Yehuda? There's 2 types of bittul. There's the bittul of a king, and there's the bittul of a navi. Moshe was ultimately not the family of Melucha. Shevet Levi were kohanim. Melucha belongs to Shevet Yehuda. A king, a real king, also has to be completely in a state of submission, because power corrupts. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. The only justification for somebody to have on the power on the level of a melech is that he does not call the power his own. Rather, he sees his power completely as a vehicle to serve the people and serve Hashem. That's the only melech you could trust. Any other melech, any person with power, real power, who has any other agenda, you have to be stupid to trust, because you will be abused, right? Blind trust in dictators is a ridiculous thing. One of the great evils of history. So a melech is a very serious thing. The Gemara says in Brachas, Chav Beis, HaMelech Kivan Shekara Shuven Ezakiv. A regular Jew by Shemona Esrei, you say, Baruch Atah Hashem, and you daven, you're erect. A melech by Shemona Esrei, you know what the halacha is. Baruch Atah stays down till Oisa Shalom, till the end. That's the halacha. Why? So everyone is up, and the poor king is all the way down. Yeah, you can give him a few pets if you don't like him. He won't know who did it. What's the verse? So everyone stands all Shemona Esrei straight, and he's the only one who's down. The pshat is exactly, he's the only one who got to be down, because he got the power. Everybody else could be up, he can't. The moment he forgets that he's a shliach, he's a conduit, he's a channel, it's not about him. It's not about his ego and his power and his talents and his charisma. He's not a melech. He will be corrupt. That's what will happen. That's what happened to many or maybe most monarchs in history. That's exactly what happened. So, on the other hand, if you're completely nullified, you can't be a king. A king sends people to war. A commander-in-chief can't be a shmata. You have to be very, very, very assertive. A leader has to be extremely strong. So what type of bittul is it? It's not the bittul where he can melt away in a state of meditation and mindfulness. A king has to be present in reality. That's what Yehud is. You have to be a lion. You have to be present. You can't be in an aloof world. You can't be prophesizing in heaven. So you are in a very concrete world, but you have to be able to buy down. Kohuna is a different role. Levi is a different role. Moshe is a different role. Kvat pek, kvat lashon. He couldn't talk. That's a bittul. The whole core is, so to speak, nullified. That's the chilik in machshav itself between Leah and Noch. Now there's a parenthesis, which finishes the discussion and culminates it. You could look in the Maamar and Shlach, where Kislev and Yehoshua argue with the spouse. Now listen to this. The inyan doira midbar shahaya mebchinas Leah olam hamachshava. The struggle of Rachel and Leah is not over. The whole generation of the desert came from Leah. We mean spiritually. Some of them came from Rachel. Spiritually, their souls belonged to Leah, the world of thought. V'tanu, this was their complaint. Why should we go into Eretz Yisrael? Why should we go down to a world of speech? Malchus, Eretz Tata, the lower earth. What's going to happen in Eretz Yisrael? Oh, we need trumas, we need meisters, we have to become farmers. No, who needs it? All Torah and mitzvahs you could do much better through mindful meditation. Instead of eating matzah, take away all the food, sit by the Seder table, put both arms on your knees, breathe, and think about liberty. And it'll be far less stressful Pesach. Dike, mit biur, mit bittel, mit mechire, mit kazayis, with two kazayis and with afikoimans. And this, the whole headache of Eretz Yisrael is maisa, dibur. In the midbar, they were essentially in a state of thought. It was a thoughtfulness. So they came from Leah. And this was their time. It wasn't they were stam corrupt. They didn't want to go into Eretz Yisrael. They felt it's going to destroy the fabric of what they had in the midbar. Ach be'emes hayu b'toz gadol. They made a big error. It's only when you could filter reality through speech and then action that the infinite truth of Hashem becomes manifested even stronger. The end is always etched in the beginning. It's only when you bring things down all the way that you actually reveal the ultimate source. Like we say, L'chadoidi Seif Maisa b'machshavat chil, or Moshe Rabbeinu Olav Shalom Ispalo Tov Kuf Tesvav Tfilis Likanas Laaretz. Moshe, who comes from Levi, who knows what Leah is, davens 515 tefillas just to go into Eretz Yisrael, knowing the Maila of the Midbar of Eretz Yisrael. And this was their taina. They said, Eretz Oicheles Yoshveha. It's a land that eats up its inhabitants. What did they mean according to this? They meant the moment you come into the real world of Dibur Maisa, you're dead. You're dead. You get eaten up. It's much better to remain in the world of machshava, of aloofness, of sublimity. That's where reality is. Machshava, stay there. Stay in Alma Disgasia. Don't come down to Alma Disgalia. The mistake was not that they're wrong. They have a point. He's not arguing with it. He doesn't say they're wrong. They had a point. The part is, it's by coming down that you access the ultimate truth. No, it's Sefer B'tchilas. Valpize yuvan oid inyan vayav Yaakov es Rachel dafka. That's now we'll understand more Yaakov's love to Rachel. Shibchinis dibur u'maisa ki snua Leah hepech mikavanas deira midbar. Snua Leah doesn't mean literally he hated Leah. He meant that the ultimate kavana is not Leah. The ultimate objective is not to remain in the Deir HaMidbar, to remain in the desert in the B'chin of Machshav. V'amnam tzarech biyur, you have to understand, Masha'amar Leah apam yilove ishi elai. Leah does say, finally my husband will be close to me. According to this, as Leah is saying, oh, I want to get Yaakov away from Rachel and finally be only with me. So in other words, according to the spiritual meaning, what is she saying? I don't want him to go, that the Jews should go into Eretz Yisrael. I don't want Dibur HaMaisa. She says, no. Allah ha'inyan, the emes is, ki be'emes, tzarech liyas beis apchinas machshava Dibur HaMaisa. The truth is, Yiddishkeit is not about Rachel or Leah. Both qualities are vital, machshava and Dibur HaMaisa. The ha'beloi ha'loi sagi. One without the other is insufficient. Ein mashakosov makamache beinyan Levyasan v'sher habar, sho gamkin inyan beis pchinas hanal. Levyasan loshen is kashrus, Levi pchinas bittel denune yamek mayapam yilov. It's very beremez. The Medrash says that la'asid lovid is going to be a big war between the Leviathan and the sher habar, the gigantic bull, and they're going to kill each other. And from this beat is going to be the Suda for Tzadikim la'asid lavei. Right? Everybody knows the Niggin. Vasvet men geben by the Suda, yeah, Levyasan, Sher Habar, etc. So what is this, a joke? It says Levyasan and Sher Habar is Leah and Rachel. Levyasan comes from the word Levi. Levyasan is Nunei Yam, the fish under the water. Fish underwater are always in a state of concealment. They never emerge. Sher Habar is on the dry land. It's a whole different reality. Levyasan and Sher Habar together will be eaten. Levyasan is a skashrus. Levyasan is it's very aloof, very sublime, very connected. You're underwater. And from both is going to be the Suda La'asid Lavi. Why from both? Because you need Rachel and Leah. The Leah Ratzasa Sheye Ikar Ade B'chinazu. Machlokes was, Leah wanted the Ikar Avodas Hashem should be through this B'chinal Derech. Shamru, the Mishnah says in Brachas, B'chsidim Arishonim, Shoyu Shoyin, Tes Shoyz B'chol Yoyim B'tfilah. The Mishnah says in Brachas that the early Chasidim used to spend 9 hours a day davening. Shmoneh Esrei took an hour, before and after. Mindfulness before Shmoneh Esrei, mindfulness after Shmoneh Esrei to bring it down, 3 hours. Shachris Mincha Ma'ariv, 3, 6, 9. 9 hours a day davening. By the way, if we would daven Shmoneh Esrei for an hour, that would mean that every word you have to stop for 9 seconds. You say every word and you meditate on each word for 9 seconds. I believe that would make Shmoneh Esrei more or less an hour. Right? So if you ever try to do that, you can actually get into it. You need at least 9 seconds for a word. If you don't spend 9 seconds on a word, Sim Shalom, you're holding Sim Shalom. Oh, well, that was fast, right? Maybe Rafeinu, Baruch Aleinu, if you're having a certain issue, so you remember that you're davening. But, Hashiva, Ala Tzadik, whatever, here we go again. But if you do not 9 seconds of bracha, 9 seconds a word, 9 seconds Baruch, 9 seconds Ata. Ata could mean something. This is the B'china of Leah, Machshava. These Chasidim are Rishonim, this was the B'china of Leah. 9 hours a day, there's not much left to the day, but this was life for them. 9 hours davening is in order to get to work, right? So but this was life. They didn't want to go anywhere. This was it. They didn't have to go anywhere. So, there was a chassid of the Tzemach Tzedek, his name was Reb Hillel Paritcher. So he once tells the Balagola, come, I want to go to the Rebbe. So they go, I want to go there for Shabbos. The problem is, he says he knew he davened long. So he said he made a deal with him that he has to daven Friday short. Because if not, they're not going to make it Shabbos to the city of Lubavitch in Belarus. Lepoil of Hillel started to daven, and fadafen. So he comes, the guy starts screaming at him. We made a deal. He says, let's go back home. He says, what do you mean you wanted to go to the Rebbe? So I wanted to go to the Rebbe because I needed help in my davening. But today, so I'm gone. Mission was accomplished. That's it. I'm there. His davening was his objective. B'meila, that's Chassidim Rishayim. So now he says, Frag the Gemara, Monsey, Torah Nasis. The Gemara asks him brachas. So when did they learn? The Gemara says Torah mishtameres. That's what the Gemara and their Chassidim, their Torah was preserved. So you see, this was their life. Amnam Yaakov yada, but Yaakov knew shezei efsherak libnei aliyah shein mu'atim. This is possible for some people, and it's needed for some people. Bnei aliyah means higher people, but they are few. Avol kol Yisrael ikerei v'esekai de dibur amais. Most Jews, the most involvement in life, ultimately they experience life through words and deeds. You can't expect for most people to operate on a level of thought. Some do, but not most. Most people are not in a state where they're Levi, Hapam Yilava, they melt away in thought, and that's where life is. It's asking for something that they can't relate to.
That's what he said at the beginning of Maamar. That's why Golas was such a problem.
Yeah.
Because people couldn't only know
Exactly.
to figure out.
Once Golas happens, the only way you can get Leah is without Rachel. And to get that is very difficult. Because it's a much deeper and higher space. So Yaakov spent, where did he establish his place? In the Oil Rachel. Not because he never appreciated Leah, but because he understood in a funny way that in the world of Leah is a very beautiful world, a very deep world. But the main avoid of Yaakov as the father of the Jewish people was to invest, to spend time, to create a relationship between Lavan, between Lavan Elyon and Dibur Maisa. Omikal Makayim Tzarich Leah's Gam Kemachshav. But Leah says, I don't want to lose Yaakov. Hapam Yilav, you need machshava. Shemizen nimshach re'iyeh shmiyah listakol b'yikara demalka. That allows you to see, allows you to hear, allows you to gaze at the glory of the King, which words and actions don't. You need that state of sublimity. Even the Jews, the Dibur HaMaisa has to sometimes go to Leah. The Gemara says in Yavamas, somebody who says, I only have Torah, so then even Torah he doesn't have. The Seder is be Rotzei, which is ascending, Leah, and then Shuv, which is returning. Raki Oz, no, it's Sofer B'tchilas, and you always have to go back, because ultimately the end is etched in the beginning.
The only trouble with this is that Moshe came from Levi. I mean, but Moshe was not up in the clouds as a space kid that just connected all the time. He was really working with Knesset Yisrael day in, day out.
But that's the whole chiddush of Moshe, in other words. The whole chiddush of Moshe was, he's arguing with Hashem. It's not for me. Shlach nabi atishlach. Kvad loshen, lo yish dvarim. He doesn't stop with that. But that was the chiddush of Moshe. That Hashem basically said that despite your natural state, he became much like a new person. That was the great Mesiras Nefesh, and that's why at key moments in Moshe's life, he like breaks down. In Parshas Vayeitzei, he's like,
it's not for me.
Hargeini, no. What do you want? I'm not going to fight with them about sushi and cholent. They want cholent. They're saying there's not enough. What happened in Vayeitzei is that like there's no kishka in the cholent. So Charnu is Hadaga, we remember the cholent in this. Moshe's like, really? This is where we're at after everything? This is really not my world. This is really, it was a unique transformation. The Mesiras Nefesh of Moshe was not that he has to give away his physical life. Mesiras Nefesh of Moshe is that he has to deal with people. Dasan, Aviram, it wasn't, he was so beyond, they thought Moshe is parochial. When Korach comes to him and says, oh, you want power. The Mesiras Nefesh was not that he gave away his whole life, that he had to deal with that. You understand?
This class is brought to you by theyeshiva.net. Please help us continue the classes. Make even a small contribution at www.theyeshiva.net/donate.